Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I realise I haven't uploaded in a little while, which I feel like is becoming a bit of a catchphrase of mine, but in truth, there just hasn't been much going on in the world of Doctor Who. I did take the time to kind of redecorate my office a little bit. Now you can see my heads, my Cyberman heads have been displayed on the wall, which if anything, makes me look like I'm a Doctor Who monster game hunter. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the current state of Iplayer, and specifically the Doctor Who content on Iplayer, and how essentially certain things are being removed from BBC Iplayer, and I wanted to explore what's being removed, why it's being removed, and why this ultimately shows that physical media, even now, is still king. But subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. We are trying to get to 25,000 subscribers, and I'd love to get to it before Christmas. That would be really, really nice. Maybe we can do it, maybe we can't, we'll see. Subscribe if you're new, let's get right into it. So the first tweet I saw actually came from Tinted who said, "Warning, Terror of the Zygons will be off of BBC iPlayer by the end of the week." Terror of the Zygons, for those of you who don't know, is a classic Who story, Tom Baker story, featuring the Zygons. It's their first appearance, obviously. And then Matthew Purchase tweeted out that exactly 1 year from the Whoniverse being launched on iPlayer, Terror of the Zygons and Seeds of Doom are no longer available. As you can see here, it says, "Sorry, this episode is currently unavailable," and "Sorry, this episode is currently unavailable." And he emailed the BBC asking why this was, and they said that, "I understand you have contacted us because Terror of the Zygons and Seeds of Doom are unavailable on iPlayer. Sadly, these episodes are not available on iPlayer as we do not have the right to make them available. Our programs are only available for a set amount of time, and after this time, it expires." So yeah, essentially what this is, I think, as far as I can tell, is the original writers of the story maybe made a deal with the BBC to have these episodes on iPlayer for the year, and then once that year contract expires, the episodes become unavailable. I saw someone in the replies to the original tweet saying it's probably something to do with the writer's estate, which would essentially mean that they only had the rights for a limited amount of time, and apparently a similar thing happened when Big Finish made stories with the Zygons and the Cranoids that were then made unavailable for a limited period of time due to rights stuff. Because as far as I know, old rights when it comes to BBC television and like British sort of media more broadly is a little bit different to how it is now, and with a lot of big American stuff. So like, as far as I understand it, anything you wrote back in the day for a TV show legally wasn't the property of the BBC or whoever you made it for, but was instead yours. You wrote it. So that's why when the 2005 revival happened, there was all this uncertainty about whether the Daleks could come back or not, because Terry Nation's estate, the man who wrote the original Dalek story, owned the rights to the Daleks, and therefore the BBC weren't sure whether they could use them, and it was only after various negotiations that they were allowed to. I think it works similarly for the Weeping Angels with Stephen Moffat, although I can't 100% clarify that, and to be honest, knowing Moffat, he would always let Doctor Who use the Weeping Angels regardless. But yeah, essentially for the longest time in British TV and film, the people who owned the ideas weren't the companies that the films or TV shows were made for, but rather the individual writers. What this means, though, is that unlike with, say for example, Disney Plus, that very much kind of owns most of the things that are in their catalogue, with the BBC, it was more done through like freelance work and like one-offs, so the individuals own the work, which is why when it comes to creating a big sort of Doctor Who service like this, it's a lot more difficult because of that fact. Again, I want to clarify, I'm not a copyright lawyer, so this might be slightly wrong, but as I understand it, most American companies, and indeed most British companies these days, when you make something under a company for a show, the company owns that property, right? So, say for example, and there's a whole argument to be made about like whether this is better for the creators or not, but it is a nightmare when it comes to streaming and stuff like this. What I do find interesting about this though is that this isn't happening just to like classic releases. It's happening to more recent stuff too. For example, The Daleks in Colour is also available for only 22 days on iPlayer from now. Obviously, some people might not see that as a huge loss. I know that that story is fairly controversial for a variety of reasons, or at least that version of the story, I should say. But even still, I find it weird given that that was a new release made specifically for the 60th. Yes, it's an old story, but you'd think that they'd have all the checks and balances in place for that one now, I would have thought. But Who knows? Maybe I have seen some people speculate that this could be because they are planning a new colorization of a new 60s story, and they didn't want it to, like, sort of overshadow it on Iplayer, which very much could be the case. But that still seems like a weird reason to me. Apparently, Destination Skaro only has 16 days left without a physical release. Now, this one isn't as big a deal because Destination Skaro is widely available online and on YouTube, and I'm assuming the reason for this is more because it's probably more of a children in need thing than anything else, because I know that there have been issues before with rights to children in need stuff. It's the same reason why something like Dimensions in Time, for example, has never had a physical media release, because it's done for charity, and therefore, you know, it's kind of a bit different, I think. And again, judging by the fact that it's available for 16 days, it looks like the copyright was only made available for a year. Whether that'll be renewed, I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see. It also looks, though, like Doctor Who at 60, a musical celebration, ends tonight as well. Actually, 2 hours from when I'm recording this. By the time you guys watch it, it's probably going to be off. But also, David Tennant talking Doctor Who, which was him talking about the classic series on BBC. I don't know why these would need to be removed. I don't really understand, like, what the reason is for these ones. For classic stories, I get it. You know, the BBC don't own all the rights outright, so therefore they have to keep making, like, deals with the original writers or their estates. With these, I don't get it as much, because, like, surely there is no rights limitation on this stuff. It could just be making room for more stuff. Maybe they don't want to keep things that are old on the service for too long. And in fact, it might also be a similar case, specifically with the 60th musical concert celebration to the one I mentioned with Daleks in Colour, where we know we're getting this Christmas Doctor Who 2024 at the proms, so maybe they don't want those two sort of overlapping with each other. I'm not sure, but it still strikes me as a weird decision. And yeah, ironically, as I said, this all did happen on the anniversary of the Whoniverse being announced, which is still a really cool resource, don't get me wrong, and I'm glad it exists and I'm glad we have it, but fundamentally, this does just show that physical media is still very much important in the modern day, because these episodes, these stories, these behind-the-scenes nuggets, they can be removed at any time for any reason on these digital services. The only way you are going to be able to watch something definitively is own it yourself. And in fact, even the video commentaries are being taken off of iPlayer 24 days from now. This one really baffles me because, like, it's the episodes you've already got, they're just talking over them. Perhaps they're doing it so that there's more incentive to buy the physical release, because obviously on a lot of the steelbooks and stuff, the video commentaries are included, but I feel like people who watch the video commentaries buy the DVDs regardless. So I don't know, that seems like an incredibly weird choice to me. What do you guys think about this? Let me know down in the comments below. This is a bit of a different topic to something I'd usually cover, but I just thought it was interesting and a lot of people were talking about it, so I wanted to give my 2 cents. If you did enjoy, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later.